So today we want to see how to see the frame per second in a window of Pygame. So when we create a game, it's very important to know the frame rate here, and you can see here it's displayed here. Let me just make it a little bigger, right? Even more. Okay, so we got this frame rate here. Let's see, and it's important for the game here. Of course, it is set to 60 and it stays 60. There is nothing on it except for the text itself. So of course, it is there is not much of a computation in the computer. So, but we will see how to put it into our game. So let's start a new file and see how to do it. First of all, you gotta import Pygame. Let's save it as FPS fast 2. And okay, once you imported Pygame, you know that you have to initialize Pygame with Pygame init, so that you don't need to initialize the fonts, because now we have to use the fonts to display the clock, the clock tick. So that is the frame rate of the screen. So first of all, let's create the screen. Of course, to create a window in Pygame, you get to go pygame display set mode, and then you have to give a tuple here of, for example, 400 for 400. And okay, now we have the screen, and then we want to have the clock object, and that is created with pygame.time.clock. This creates the clock objects to control the frame rate. Otherwise, it will be without any kind of control by ourselves. Now let's create a font object with pygame.font.sysfont. We will use this. We can also use another way, but for now let's use this. We got to use Arial, and then let's use 36 um, of the grade has the size of the character. Now let's create the loop before we create a function. We create the while loop. This will show infinitely the screen. So we will first of all fill the screen with black, so that we can delete every time the screen, so that the animation does not leave any trace on the screen. And then we will screen.bleed. We will show on the screen with the bleed function our clock frame rate. The frame rate will be created by a function that we will call FPS, by the way, and it will return our text to be written. And I will show you how to show the text, because to show a simple text you have to deal with this object here, font created by Pygame font.sysfont. So today you will learn two things, three things: how to create a window and iterate it infinitely, how to display a text, and how to display a text that is a frame rate. Okay, so now another thing that we need to do in Pygame is to do this for loop here in Pygame for event. In Pygame dot event dot get, this will take all the input user. If the event type, so the type of input of the user, is Pygame dot width, this this constant here will is the pressing of the button of the X, like this one here on top of the screen, to close the window. So when we close the window, the loop will go to 0, because the window should close by itself. But in Pygame the things are a little different, little strange. You have to close it with we have to close the while loop here, otherwise it won't close correctly. And then we will have the clock tick. That is the way that Pygame put is frame rate to a certain frame rate of 60 in this case. And then we have to update display dot update to update the window, otherwise there will be no animation, nothing on the window. And then when we quit the window here, we will exit the loop, and so we will do pygame.quit to quit everything correctly. Save it, and let me just convert everything into space. And right, undefined FPS, because now we need to define this function that will allow us to make a little a nicer look here without too many things in it, because we want to put some code in this function. So FPS, okay, let me call this frame fr, like frame rate. It's equal string integer clock dot get FPS. So clock.get FPS takes the frame rate from this object here, and as this is a float, I change it to an integer, and then I change it into a string, because I want to show a string on the video on the screen, right? So now we are going to make to render this text fr. I want it to become font. To render the text, we have to use this function here, font.render, and fr, that is this thing, the string itself, and let's call it this frr, like frame rate render, or FRT, frame rate text. And okay, one that is to use an anti-alias so that the text will be nicer. Pygame color, and let's make it in coral, color. Yeah. Okay, and then we will return this FRT, this text rendered, that will be blitted here every time, so we can see each second, each frame, how the frame rate is itself. Let's see if everything works. Okay, seems to work. There it is. Let's make it bigger, 360. Okay, so we can see here we got the frame rate. Okay, we could also make it a little smaller here, 180, and we could also do this free FPS plus. It's too big. Okay, this is the frame rate for a second, and so you can now easily put it into a game of yours somewhere where you want to test the frame rates, and then clearly you need maybe something a little smaller. Let me run this, and so maybe you can see there somewhere in your screen your frame rate. So that is everything for now. and maybe we will test this into one of my code just right now. Okay, we have seen how to create a window with the frame rate inside. Now we want to test how to add it to our Pygame. I want to add it. I want to see. I got two different code for this animation. I showed you in one of my latest posts. Okay, where I can animate this, moving some keyboard effect, and I got two of this code that are slightly different. I used a different approach. So in the animation tree here, in my opinion, it is nicer, um, more nice and polite, and so also faster maybe, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to use this code here um, to see which one is faster. So let's take this font thing here, and let's put into um, a global scope here outside of a function. There it is, our font. Then I'm gonna take this function here, and I'm gonna put it here somewhere, and then, as I showed you in my post, I have to go and take this to blip my FPS, my frame rate, into the while loop of animation 2. Let me go in the while loop. There it is, and so I can put it right here at the start, or maybe after the start. This is not good because it will be deleted by the screen fill here, so let me put it here. Now this should work. So I showed you also how to put it in your font is not initialized here, because now I gotta tell you something. You need to do first pygame.init or initialize the, so I'm going to put this one here after the pygame init, okay, and see if it works. Maybe it won't work because now the name clock is not defined, and let me see. Okay, I don't have the clock. No, I got clock here, and okay, it's here, but it's not a global variable. So let me put it as a global clock, right? And let's put here global clock. Okay, now it should work. Now font is not defined also, because for the same reason, as I put my font here, I should put this one outside of a function. If you put them inside of a function, you need to also let me see, font, this is at line 9 here. You need to have this font here to be global. So global font, okay, global font, and then we need also here to use global font. Now let's run it, and it runs. Oh, look at that, the frame rate is quite bad. Let me see, but let me here I got this FPS here that should be okay, 20. It's me that let's put it to 60. Okay, of course now it goes much faster. That was the reason for I do put the frame rate to 20. So now, as you can see, it goes stay fixed to 19. This is quite a big sprite. And so let's go to animation 2, do the same. The frame rate, as you can see, is 220. Let's copy this one so we get the global thing here too. And okay, let's copy it here. Now we just need to put our font Pygame font is here, copy it and put it into the main function after Pygame init, because we need to initialize this one, and we need to get the font global because we need to use it in another function. In this function here, there it is, font, and we need now to split our font here. So to the start of the while loop, okay, not to the start but here after the screen fill, okay, we need to split the animation into the while loop and after this screen fill here. Let's run it. Clock is not defined. We forgot to make the clock global because I got clock inside of this function. I want to explain to you these things for a moment here. When I have in this code here, I have the global outside of a function, so it's global yet. So when I do here into this function, I use this one. He knows that clock is global and use it global. But as I have initialized the clock inside of a function, I have to be more specific and say that the clock is global, right? And then specify it also here. So now you see that it works and it stays to 19. Okay, the frame rate is the same. You can see any difference. I want to see if I don't do this global here, works the same. So you need to just write global into the first one here. Okay, also here you don't need to be there because you have put global yet in the other. Okay, at 19, if I put it to 120, let's see what happens. Really fast. Look at this. And he is going here to, you know, from 100. It's very variable here in this case. And this was the second one, the last version. Let's see in this one. There is not much of a difference. You see now in the first version goes to 59 to 61. Well, when I change it, you can notice that when I change, you see it goes to 46, 47. So it's not very fast when there is some delay, not very notable. Let me see if I do 20. because now of course it goes smoothly, no problem. If I change here, now you can't notice any kind of, yes, just sometimes a little bit of delay, but at 60 instead it was more noticeable. Yes, see here is, if I change it goes to 47, 46, 47. Okay, so now with this method I think we can see some delay when we change position. Let me see with the new code here that I think it's more efficient, but I have no proof. Let me put to 60 like that one and go here. You see now it's at 60 when it, let's just see what happens when I change animation. Okay, this proves that this is more efficient, because you see when I change it doesn't goes, it stays always to 60, 59, never goes to 440. So here is the proof, and let me show it also a little bigger. You can see that it stays always at 59, not less than 58, so very good frame rate. Instead, if I go here, let me change also here the sides. Okay, and I want to also change the color so that you can see that we are in a different, let me do it in lime, the old version. Oh, it's an invalid color name, sorry. Green. And let me also put here version 1. Okay, there it is. You see that the version 1 is at 60 now, but if I change, it's not a big deal. But if you have to change very, you see a lot of time like this, and change, look at this, it goes even to 18, 27. If I go very fast, it goes to 22. So it's not such a good code, and I can explain it later, because this is going to load the image each time that change the position. So I thought this was not a good code. Let's go here in version 2. Version 2, that is also different color. You see it is at 60. Now, even if I change very fastly the action, it never goes down to 59. So this is a good code, because it do not slow down the frame rate when I press. That is fundamental for what we are going to do. So I think I'm going to change the post and delete forever the other code. And so this is better, and you see it's also clearer. It just load code at the start in different variables, and this may be a little take more RAM, for example, but the frame rate stays always the same. So let's see again that when I change position, the frame rate stays always the same. In this other code here, if I change very fastly, you saw the frame rate goes really slows down. Think when you get enemies. If I don't change position, it is right because it loaded, it's right, etc. But when I go here and change, it has to load again the character. And so the first one, the second one, yes, better. So you can control how the game goes with your frame rate and have a proof of that your code is better. Thank you.